I should. I don't know, day 4 or 5 of 1,000 days of recording. For those who've found this video for the first time, I am Andrew Choi. I'm a dentist in a Southern California city. I live around Anaheim, California, for those that know Disneyland. My videos are my attempt to stay consistent, share my life, my lifestyle, also mostly, my business, my interest in my business, and improving my business and growing my business. Over the last 3 years or so, almost 4 years, I have grown a very small startup dental office into a pretty big office. I went from seeing about 10 new patients a month to now seeing over 80 patients a month. And that's given me substantial growth in terms of the way I think, the way I operate my business. And it's been great. A lot of hardship, a lot of difficulties, and I continue to grind through those difficulties, but wanted to share that, and that's why I have my YouTube channel. That's my long-winded summary of what I am trying to achieve. Today's topic is actually just a little bit about me and my life. I actually grew up in Korea. I'm a Korean American. I immigrated here with my parents. My dad is a dentist. He was a dentist in Korea, and he wanted to learn more, so he decided to come to the States to do his specialty in prosthodontics. So he went to USC for his international degree and doctorate of dental surgery, and he went to Loma Linda for his prost residency. I grew up in the States, and I was a unique child, and I still am a unique person. And I was kind of a bad kid, honestly. I was really good until I became a teenager. And the turning point for me was actually in middle school, end of 8th grade. I still remember. I was a unique kid in that I still do. I have an identity crisis. I think a lot of kids who immigrated have an identity crisis, because when I go to Korea, they say I'm an American. When I am here, everyone tells me I'm Korean, especially because I look super Korean and I act super Korean. So I was always confused. But in high school, I didn't know how to dress. I had pimples. I had 4 eyes, and I wasn't really picked on much because I was on the taller side, and I didn't really let people pick on me. But one day, some kid decided to on the field. I think we were playing soccer or something, and I still remember him. His name was Sean. He was smaller than me, but I guess he knew Taekwondo, and he decided to kind of pick on me a little bit. And then during that confrontation, we had decided, I need to get something more stable. We had decided that we're gonna meet up later and fight. And what happened was someone that I know, this gangster kid, an Asian gangster kid, heard about this and decided to help me out. He actually went to go talk to the guy and scared him away, basically helped me from getting into a fight. And I was actually pretty scared to get into a fight, basically. And since then, he became my best friend. And what happened is he joined the gang and recruited me. Now, it wasn't like some crazy MS-13 kind of gang. It was a neighborhood gang, newly starting out, like a junior mafia. And but nevertheless, I got jumped in. by 5 guys. Jumping in, for those that don't know, it was like for like a minute, they surround you, they hit you, and you try to fight back, but you get beat up. But that's kind of how I'm telling you the story, just to tell you like how bad I was. And then that's when I started to hang out with bad kids, but somehow, miraculously, I got into college. I went to UC San Diego, and I got away from that scene. But during college too, I was a fuckboy. I was stupid. I did drugs. I sold drugs and hung out with better people than my middle school and high school days, but still drank every day. Did horrible in college. Barely graduated college. Had an awesome time in San Diego though. I wish I enjoyed it more, because that's where I want to retire to in the future, if I ever get to retire. So it was an awesome opportunity. And after college, because my grades were so bad, I couldn't get into dental school. I never really wanted to. My dad wanted me to. That's why he kind of forced me to major in biology, because we thought that you had to major in biology to get into dental school. I digress. Basically, after college, I worked in sales and marketing for this company that services like DNA sequencing for labs, and I was their junior sales guy. I was so lazy. I didn't know how to work. I had no work ethic, but somehow survived in the company for 6 months, but I had no passion. But I did learn a couple things. I literally had to knock on doors, and I'm an introvert. I hate talking to people unnecessarily, and I had to practice that. I had to knock on doors, try to get them to change into our services, pick up services. It was pretty bad. That's when I was about, how old was I? I went into college really late, so when I graduated, I was like 23, 24. And for about a year, I worked, just kind of going back and forth, working in different places. And at that time, it was 2009. I graduated in 2009, and the economy was horrible. I mean, that was when the recession was there. Finding a job was horrible. I tried to work. I was always into business though, so I wanted to go into like startup. I wanted to go to startup. So in San Diego, I applied to this one position. I was supposed to be a assistant to the CEO. So it was exciting. I was like, I'm going to learn a lot from a CEO. It was a small startup right next to the beach of San Diego. When I walked in there were surfboards, because the people that work there are allowed to take the day off to go surfing if they want to, as long as they get their work done. And the person that interviewed me for the first interview, she was the VP. And she told me that this is the position that she first had, and she moved up to a VP. It was exciting. And I had that interview, went home, and I was told that out of the two, I was the top 2 candidate, but they decided to go with somebody else. Devastated. And then during that time, my dad's friend, who is a Filipino dentist, pitched to my dad, hey, if he can't get into a dental school in the US, and it takes a long time for him to get into dental school here, I can get into it. It would just take me a couple of years to do a post-bac program, master's program, to bring up my GPA. He said, why don't you send it to the Philippines? In the Philippines, you can get into a dental school kind of right away. Once you get that degree, I would have to come back here, go into an IDP program, which is International Dental Program. And that would be another hurdle, but maybe it'll be good for your son. And so my dad, knowing me, knowing all the temptations, all the friends I have here, how immature I am at the time, I was about 24, 25. basically enticed me into going to the Philippines. Being so immature, being so naive at the time, it was a perfect timing when I was having no motivation, self-doubt, low self-esteem because all the rejections, and not knowing what I want to do. I said okay. And the reason why I said okay was because I was thinking, I had no clue what kind of country was Philippine was. I didn't know it was a third world country. I didn't know what a third world country actually feels like to live. And also I was like, oh, it's close to Korea. I can go visit Korea often and party it up there. That's what I was thinking. And so I ended up accepting this and going to the Philippines. Yes, at 25, as a Korean American, not knowing a soul in the Philippines, decided to go to the Philippines for school. And so I ended up going to a school in the Philippines called Adventist University of the Philippines, which is a sister school to Loma Linda University, which is a Seventh-day Adventist school. I'm not a Seventh-day Adventist, my family isn't. But my dad went to Loma Linda and he had friends from Loma Linda, so that's how I ended up in the Philippines. So I lived there for 5 years. I went to school for 4 years. I had to go a little early to do prerequisites and all that, and that was a interesting experience. It was really hard. For the first 2 years, I was pretty depressed. I was hard on myself because I told myself, damn, I fucking got here. I can't fuck up and go back, because before I went back, my friends were doubting that I was going to survive in the Philippines. They said, I heard later on that they even made a bet to see how fast I'll come back. So with all this in mind, and when I was placed there, I realized and I grew and learned a lot about life and the world, because now I knew what poverty really, really was, and how important education really, really is. So in the Philippines, it was really hard for me because Filipino food doesn't really match my taste. And the one good thing about the Philippines for me, Philippines is a beautiful country, but for me was that most people spoke English. That was a big advantage for me. I didn't have to really learn Tagalog. And people were very nice to me. But I had difficulty in terms of food, things to do, which was also helpful because I didn't really go out and just didn't have people that I can really relate to. I was very lonely. So the first 2 years went by super slow. Had difficulty. I mean, I did okay in school. It was kind of like the educational system's kind of frustrating where I was. But I got through it. I survived, and I spent my last decade of my 20s, 25 to 30, in the Philippines. While I was there, I would see on Instagram and Facebook all my friends partying up in their 20s, so that was very difficult. I had major FOMO. And then I came back when I was 30. But when I came back, I realized that I underestimated the application process for the international dental program in the US as well, which was very, very highly competitive at the time, and probably still now. There are a lot of international dentists that are trying to come into the US from all over the country, especially countries like India, and Pakistan and those areas, and Middle East. And those guys are smart. They were a dentist back there, and it's very high competitive there too. Everyone has a 4.0 GPA from India. So Getting into the program, there's a bench test. You actually have to prep some teeth before going in, and they have specific criterias, in-person interviews. It's a multiple day process. And after the first cycle, I was rejected from all schools. The first school I interviewed at was University of Colorado, and the last school I interviewed at ended up being University of Colorado. The second cycle, I was able to get into a couple schools. I think it was like 3 or 4 schools, but none in California, which I did want to go to. Ended up going to University of Colorado, and did my international program there. So as I'm moving along in this chronology, you can see the development that I've had and the experiences that I had, the people that I met. Things started to change me. Although I'm still immature, and I still look back and hate myself for all the selfish, antisocial, idiot acts that I did. For those who are watching who know me from the past, I have many regrets, even throughout, even till dental school. Like when I was in the Philippines too, I acted very privileged, because I was, compared to the natives of the Philippines. I had more money, and I had my own house. Everyone lives in the dorms, and dorms are pretty crappy over there. And I had I lived like a king in the Philippines, because my parents supported me because they just wanted me to fucking graduate. They were afraid that I'm gonna fail over there too, I'm sure. But anyways, it was that whole process made me who I am. I don't regret it a bit. Would I be able to do it again? I'm not sure. But I'm so glad that I did, because I learned a lot. So now that takes me up to after graduating dental school. My dad's a dentist, and he had 2 offices, but one office was very, very far away. And my dad is a very clinical person. He's a prosthodontists are usually very clinical focused, type A personality, and he's an introvert as well. And so I think the concept of business in the US as a dentist is quite different, quite different from Korea. So my dad did a startup in the beginning, and it didn't do well, so he ended up buying another dental office. My dad actually almost went bankrupt, but because of this office that I'm running now. He started the office that I'm starting now back when I was in high school. So, but it didn't grow that much because he didn't know how to market and put himself out there. He just knew how to do good dentistry, just clinically, just great dentistry. And that's why he has such, he has patients that are very long-term. All the patients that discovered him, most people loved him because he was so gentle. He's great with his hands, and he's a prosthodontist. He has that experience. But he just didn't know how to market himself out there and let other people find him. And that's what I really studied and I loved when I was in dental school. And even before dental school, I was always into business. So I would listen to business radio, business books. I started off with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I started reading E-Myth. And I listened to Mark Costas. For those who know dental podcasts, I used to go to Mark Costas' seminars, and I was really into it. I was preparing myself, till I get out of dental school. And so after dental school, I worked other places because my dad was like, "You need to go work in other places because I don't have enough patience for you at this office, anyways. And I want you to kind of learn go to other offices, experience how they operate, so that when you come back here, you'll be able to appreciate this office." That's kind of what I think his thinking process was. And so I worked in other offices for about a year, and then pandemic hit. So when pandemic actually hit the first week that I started working. So I worked through the COVID, and I basically decided during COVID, like after working in another office for 6 months, I mean, this sucks. I'm just gonna go work at my dad's office and try to grow it. And that's when I started working part-time, and then ended up working full-time there because I was able to grow the office. And that's where I'm at now. Thanks for listening. That's my life story. I'm going to be sharing more on the business aspect of it and just my life in general, what I've learned throughout my life. If you're interested in this, please subscribe. Please hit the like button to support the algorithm so that other people that might find this interesting will find this video. I'm sorry for the long-winded story of my life, but I did want to do one video of my life because my life is kind of interesting, to me at least, the way it turned out. And so yeah, that's my video for today, and bye.